Hello, welcome to the DraftCast. On this episode, we are joined by George Keeney, manager for the renamed Egg and Cresswell, previously Ajax Treesdown. Welcome back, George.
Thank you very much. Glad to be back in the new season as well. Very exciting.
It's been a while, but yeah, glad to have you back.
Thank you very much.
And as last season was your first season in our draft league, I thought we could do a bit of a Q&A session focusing on your experience of your first season. So I've had the other managers put forward some questions, and as you can expect, some are serious and others not so much.
Excellent. Are all the questions anonymous, or will you be revealing who's throwing the abuse around or silly questions?
I can reveal who has asked the question if you want to know.
I mean, I can imagine I might be able to guess a few of them.
Well, we could do you guessing some, and then I'll just let you know if you want to know.
Okay, excellent.
So yeah, I think we just get into the questions because I think there's quite a few, and this could take us hopefully not too long, but
yeah, as mentioned, I'd rather not focus on my current draft team performance anyway, so fire away with the question.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think we've got time to cover the other usual topics. So, so before we begin with the other people's questions, I've got a couple to start us off. So yeah, are you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
Okay, so first up, have you been in a fantasy football draft league before, and are you in any others now?
Yeah, so I had a couple of years ago had done a fantasy draft, but it was sort of done by a group of work friends as a I guess a gimmicky sort of sidecar to the normal draft league, and wasn't really taken massively seriously.
Yeah.
So we had a good laugh on doing the draft process, and then nobody really partook in any trades. Most people forgot that they had to put in their waivers on a Friday. So it was a shock to the system last year when obviously it was taken a lot more seriously, and as such you get a lot more out of it.
Yeah.
And I am in another one. I've tried to, because of how good the draft is, I've tried to put it onto another group of friends to get involved, but again they're not really taken to it in the same way. But then again, I don't think I've got the time or the energy to have two groups that are as intense and into the draft as these guys. So it's probably a blessing in disguise, really, that no one else seems to have picked it up in such a way.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not in any others, so I don't know that pain.
Yeah, to be honest, the most difficult thing about it is remembering which players you've got in which teams in which league, because inevitably you've got group chats flying all over the place, and you can't really remember who you're meant to be cheering for in each particular game.
Yeah, sort of leads on to my next question, which is: were you given appropriate warning of how serious the league is, or was it a bit of a trial by fire?
I mean, the seriousness of the actual draft league, I'm more than happy with, as I'm a bit of a badger for football, as I'm sure you've picked up on. So the actual fantasy draft stuff is, I didn't need too much warning. I don't know if I got much of a warning on that side of things, but I think Tolly was aware that I would lap up any football chat, whereas he did warn me how active the WhatsApp group was, because that is something which now I'm very much accustomed to. But upon sort of entrance into the WhatsApp chat, be sat at work and turn over your phone and you had sort of 600 unread messages from the last 3 hours, and you just thought, how on earth am I going to keep up with this? But you sort of learn to zone in and zone out when you need to. So that I was warned about, and it was greatly appreciated. I think Tolly potentially has put it out to maybe one or two of our other friends outside of this group, from the guys we went to school with. And I think a couple of them have said, "Yeah, I just don't know if I can give up the time," which is fair enough.
Yeah, it does take up a lot of time, especially if you're like us, where you do something a bit extra for the group.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, like I said off the top, really, you get from it what you put in, and so things like the merch and the podcast and the AGMs and the Christmas stuff, it's all because it's all part and parcel of the whole draft process. It's so much more than fantasy football, isn't it? It's a really good sort of social group that's come from it. So yeah, all being well, I wasn't warned off, and as such, yeah, thoroughly enjoy all the festivities.
That's good. So for those that don't know, obviously you were introduced to the group by Tolly. So these next few questions are about Tolly.
Oh, brilliant.
And so what I've done is all the questions that have been put forward, I've grouped them into different topics, shall we say. So this first set are about Tolly. So here we go. Were you surprised when Tolly came third in a 2-horse race last season?
I was actually. I was thoroughly surprised because although he gets a fair amount of stick, he's not bad at this fantasy football stuff, and equally he is known colloquially as Trolley Oram because he can't help but jump on people who've made an error. So I couldn't believe for a second that he would put himself in that position where so clearly he embarrassed himself at the crux, the difficult end of the season. So I was shocked as everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it got brought up at the AGM as well.
I feel like it's going to get brought up again and again.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a catchphrase, a bit of a tagline for him, which is nice.
Well, it's nice for us, probably not so nice for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's to be fair to him, he's very much a peddler of, if you give it, you've got to take it, and he certainly gives it. So it's I think it's all part and parcel, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, so this next one. So when I put up to the group to send me questions, I said to everyone to send them me privately, and I wasn't going to take any questions that were put in the group. And then obviously Tolly started responding inside the group, didn't he? And then I got a question. Yeah. I got a question from Lawrence saying, "How do you put up with Tolly?" And at the time, I was like, "Is this aimed at me, or is this something I need to put forward to George?" And then I agreed that it's something I had to put forward to you. So, and I think it was meant for you.
Okay, it's a fair question. I mean, I've been friends with Tolly since we were about 11 years old, so I'm very much acclimatized, I would say. And equally, I mean, obviously he is at times incessant when he's got the upper hand, but he's good fun generally. As much as we like to joke. Yeah. And of course, he's taken me under his wing and brought me into this group. So I am forever grateful for that. And equally, I need to be relatively nice and respectful because he is my best man at my wedding next year, and so I just want to be nice to him for the next sort of 9 months or so before that speech occurs.
Yeah, that is probably a good idea. Although I don't think it'll help you.
No, even as I said that, I realised it was futile. So yeah, we shall see what comes of that.
Yeah,
I think the most difficult thing is because he is obviously, without blowing smoke up his arse, he is incredibly clever. So if you make a misstep or say something out of turn, maybe 6 to 7 months in the past, he will bring it up and remember it. So you just have to be very tactile with pretty much everything you say or do. Okay.
I've not experienced that personally yet, so I'll take your word for it. Okay, next. Has hanging out with Tolly influenced the changing in team names from Ajax Trees down to Egg and Cresswell?
No, I'm actually just a bit of a geek for funny football team name puns. So there was quite a few I toyed with having, and I just thought that with the new season, and I mean my performance last year wasn't too bad, but I thought new year, new name, new me, as the saying goes, to see if it would breed any sort of new fortunes, but so far not the case, but we'll see. So no blame attached to Tolly for that one. I just was looking for a new pun, and the chance to have a West Ham player in there as well was too good an opportunity to miss.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm undecided about whether to change mine back. Now, I'm quite liking the Lukaku FC.
Yeah, it's good. I think the more puns, the better.
Yeah, it's probably true. I think it just it's unfortunate, isn't it, for people like Adam and Rich who create stuff that has our team name on it, so it keeps changing it. So I feel a bit bad for them.
That is true, but to be honest, thinking selfishly, the chance to see Rich make a new avatar actually is all the more reason to get more creative, because they're so good that it's good fun to see what he comes up with.
That is very true. Funny enough, that was put forward by Rich, so there you go.
There we go. Excellent.
Okay, the next set of questions are around your performance from last season. So a bit more on the serious side, shall we say?
Yeah. Okay.
So, how would you assess your performance of your first season, and what areas have you highlighted for improvement?
I mean, this definitely is going to come back to bite me. But last year, for whatever reason, I kept picking out Arsenal players, despite the fact that they were rubbish, and obviously it didn't work. I mean, I should have learned. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, wonderful thing. But after week one, Aubameyang and Willian were two of the top point scorers because they'd thrashed Fulham. And at that point, their value was at their highest, and I should have got out there. And what happened is I ended up with, I think at one point, 4 or 5 Arsenal players, all of which is producing interminable results. So that's one thing I have tried to learn, is not to be over-reliant on one particular team, because rotation and dips in form were a bit of a killer when I had too many Arsenal players. But overall, I think I was less concerned about winning in year one, and just embracing thorough enjoyment of the whole process. But this year, I've very much strapped on my serious pants and do want to challenge for sort of top 3 place, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm desperately trying to put more time and effort into it to try and get close to the top of the table.
Okay. Well, one of the questions that's been put forward was, why did you pick so many Arsenal players last season?
It's a good question, and I often lie awake at night thinking exactly that. But I think for whatever reason, whenever I came to needing a new player, or I guess I was sort of straddling 4th, 5th, 6th position for a lot of the sort of last third of the season, and so just needed any slight marginal improvement. And for whatever reason, when I looked at players to draft in, Arsenal seemed to have a favourable matchup, or there was a player that maybe in their heyday had performed well, and I thought there's no way they can let me down. And once bitten, twice bitten, 3 times, 4 times bitten, and I was never shy to pick up another Arsenal player. So just a bit of naivety and perhaps a bit of goldfish symptoms of just completely forgetting what had happened the week previous.
Okay, so if we ignore the Arsenal player side of things, what would you have done differently?
Question. I think I found very quickly, and obviously I was ridiculed for this a couple of times, that I sort of fell into the trap of trying to pick up players from good teams, irrelevant of what their player's role was on that team. So me picking up defensive midfielders, thinking they'll definitely win that game, and then obviously realising that they're not going to score or assist or really get much in the way of clean sheet points was a big error. So definitely trying to pick players which sort of straddle that full-back, wing-back, or winger sort of forward area, even if they don't play for the best teams, is a good tactic. So players like I don't know whether, for example, Zaha, who plays at Crystal Palace and plays out wide, generally if they have a good game, he will score or assist, and I think he's a midfielder. So he's far more valuable than someone who plays more conservative role for Man City or Liverpool, but at times you feel daft picking up players from rubbish teams when they've got a difficult game.
Yeah. So, talking about your initial drafted team, and this might be quite hard to remember what that was, but where did you expect you would finish, and how did that compare to where you actually finished?
So I think I'm right in saying that I finished 5th in the league.
You did, yep.
And I think based on everyone looks at their own team through rose-tinted glasses, but I think I probably would have said around mid-table with my team, because I guess a certain amount of uncertainty on how it was going to go. But also, I think so. My first pick was a calculated risk. I picked up Aubameyang, who was down as a midfielder. I think had scored 30-odd goals the year before or 2 years prior. So I thought that was a relatively calculated risk, but it was, I guess, sort of high risk, high reward, in that he could either repeat that feat or at the age of 30, 31, completely fall off a cliff. So, and as we saw, he fell off a cliff. So that sort of tanked my expectations a little bit. So I certainly wasn't sat there thinking that I had a team to win it all. In fact, I think I perhaps drafted a better team this year, albeit it's not started as well as I would have hoped.
No, but that's sort of why we're not talking about it today.
This next one, I'm not sure how you're going to take it, but we'll go over it anyway. So, was there a lack of trading down? Was there a lack of trading down to lack of confidence, or did you prefer to work within the confines of free agency?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think lack of trading, a couple of things. I guess by my very nature, I'm a risk-averse person, so I would perhaps rather stick with what I've got and keep consistent results rather than shoot for the stars and fall off a cliff and be the ridicule of all the jokes. So I certainly think it pays dividends to be relatively conservative for perhaps the first 2/3 of the season, and then if you are within 100, 150 points with a couple of months to go, then you can start taking risks, because if you're not finishing top, then yeah, you're just a second loser essentially, or fastest loser rather. So I think, I don't know about lack of confidence. I guess the difficulty with the trading is everyone's after the same goal, so you almost feel like if someone presents you with a trade, I always think, God, what on earth do they know that I don't know here?
Yeah.
So yeah, just a general boring conservative nature about my trading, I would say. That's what stopped me getting involved in any blockbusters.
Yeah, I can understand that. Who do you reckon asked that question?
Probably James.
Oh, nope.
Maybe Will?
No.
Oh, I'm struggling. You're going to have to tell me then.
It was Adam.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Well, I'll have to have a look at his team later on this evening and see if he's got anything worth trading for.
I'm sure he'll take you up on a trade if you come to an agreement.
To be fair, I guess he perhaps would have been my next guess, as Adam, Will and James were the only people to message me privately on the odd occasion when they were interested in trade negotiations.
Yeah. Okay. How much do you rely on data to make footballing decisions versus just trusting your gut?
I certainly think with the fantasy football, I do. Certainly from trading, or if I'm picking somebody up in agency, then I will have a look at what their returns have been, who they've got to play, and how that compares to other options. So data very much in that regard takes a big wedge out of any big decisions that are made. But definitely, and I think this probably goes for everyone, there is an element of wanting to draft people that you like and not draft people that you don't like. So, and that sort of goes for players and teams alike, really. So I drafted probably, I don't know, maybe more England internationals this year than anyone else, and I think that was definitely a hangover from living vicariously through the European Championships all summer. So getting Pickford, Mount, and Sterling, who had all done so well for England, I think definitely makes me think I'll have them on my team, because then you get a bit of a double bubble when they do well. You think I'm glad for them because I quite like them, as well as the fact that they're doing my team well.
Yeah. So do you think that the person that asked the second part, and that was, do you think this has evolved over time? Or is it always, do you think you did that from the start and you're happy with how that went, so you just stuck with it?
No, it has probably swung a little bit. I think maybe I spent too much time looking for or ignoring players that I didn't like, even when they seemed to be dead certs. Whereas I've learnt to focus a bit more on the data.
Okay.
And I think hopefully that's helped and will help.
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult. I mean, I do look at the data as well, but sometimes I'm a bit like, am I looking into this too much, or do I need to look into more because the one thing I struggle with is like knowing, like you discussed earlier, about the position that player plays in the team, and are they a good fantasy player versus a good footballer for the team, but actually, do you know what I mean? They're 2 or 3 passes back before the goal scored, sort of thing. So. Yeah,
and I always think that, particularly about centre halves, even the best centre halves on the best teams. Like certainly last year, it seemed like no one was really keeping clean sheets, so you were better off picking up a left back from a weaker team rather than a centre back from a top team, just in case they got the odd cross or got the odd goal potentially. And so that was definitely the case for example, West Ham fullbacks were a lot more, I think, valuable than the centre halves from most of the big teams, simply because they kept a few clean sheets, as any defensive line will do in sort of the top 12 teams, but they also chipped in with a few assists and goals, which is where you get the points.
Yeah, it does help. Okay, that ends the performance section of the questions, and the next one I'm just going to call it a general hit of questions. There's a bit of mix of stuff in here, so
okay.
We'll start with, who was the manager you were most surprised and impressed by?
Who's the manager I was most surprised and impressed by? Good question. I guess from the group, I already knew, obviously, Tolly, James and Will, so I knew that they all had a relative football knowledge, albeit nobody really knows who James supports. So I'm trying to think back now to the league table. I think probably the biggest surprise, and I don't call someone out for the sake of it, but because Adam is a bit of a football whiz, he's a bit of a hive of information. Then to see him drop so low down the league was a bit of a surprise. I think maybe that filled me with a bit more confidence that even if you are down the bottom of the league, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't know anything about football. So there's a positive message that come out of that, I think.
That's true. I'm not sure if he'd take it that way, but maybe he will.
Yeah, I'll try to perhaps put that in friendly terms as possible.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think we all want to see Adam do really well, because obviously I think it's fair to say he does take this the most serious out of everybody. So
yeah,
we all want it'll be really the year he wins it will be a big year.
Yeah, agreed. The whole community will rejoice.
Okay. Next up, we've got, did you enjoy having podcasts every game week last season compared to fortnightly this season?
Oh, very interesting. Good question. I think last year, to start with, when the pod began, the novelty of having a podcast itself was so good that having it every week was really something that I think everyone, once it came out, everyone was listening to it pretty much as soon as it arrived.
Yeah.
And it was, and is still brilliant and such a great concept. But I think, as I'm sure you found last year, once you do it every week, the the content of and people analysing every nth sort of faction of the statistics and historical data and different teams and different players and all that sort of thing was, after a while, started to almost appear like, Christ, we've run out of things for people to sort of talk about and analyse for 45 minutes. So I think moving to fortnightly might actually be a good decision and give the podcast a new lease of life. And equally, because we touched on some more analytical topics last year, I think maybe people might take a leaf out of perhaps Tolly's book, for example, where he created some more comical segments for the pod, and so I think if it's once every 2 weeks, then it'll be good.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I think I agree with you there. It gives me more time to discuss with the manager what the topic they can do, and gives you guys more time to actually, put that together. So I'm hoping it will do better for us this year, but time will tell. That was the one I thought was a bit more of a dig at me than it was at you.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you know what it's like as a producer of quality content. You're always going to get fans wanting more, but you've always got to leave them wanting more. I think that's the key.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Talking about wanting more, this question is about tea time trivia. So, how do you decide what to do for tea time trivia every week? How long does it take you to prepare it? And then finally, do you get a warm, fuzzy feeling that it's been an absolute hit amongst the group?
I'll answer that last one first, and the answer is a resounding yes. Do you get a warm, fuzzy feeling? I guess when I initially put it out there, it was because I'm a bit of a geek for trivia, similar to Toll, and that's perhaps one of the things we share. And so it seemed like the group was crying out for a bit of trivia, especially because there's so many people in the groups that are so knowledgeable about football. It's always good fun to throw in some quiz questions and trivia. So yeah, I'm glad that that's taken off as it does. How do I choose the topic each week? I try and, even if it's tenuous, I do try and keep it relatively topical. So if there's been internationals, then I might do something to do with a particular nationality of player. Or, for example, this week just gone was Rich's birthday, so it was players that had scored a hat trick with the surnames beginning with R and P for Rich Price. So I guess that's where I get my inspiration each week. And how long does it take me to put it together? I do have a couple of reliable sort of statistical, really geeky websites that I've stumbled across in the past and can generally be relied upon for some good trivia facts. And then often it's just the labour-intensive part is just putting it into a spreadsheet so that I can keep the chat updated with the progress. But even that doesn't take a great deal. And actually, it's a lovely distraction on a Friday afternoon when the weekend is closing in.
Yeah, I think everybody. I think it's definitely for people that have the knowledge and can participate. I can't participate much myself because I just don't have the depth of knowledge you guys have of football. So, but I can tell everybody loves it. So it is a good addition. Yeah,
absolutely, and I will try and keep it going for as long as possible with fresh material.
That's what we want to hear, and yeah, maybe keep those websites to yourself. We don't want anyone else taking over.
Correct. I will keep them under lock and key. Absolutely.
Next up, I'm going to go with, what is the one element of the draft that you love / look forward to the most?
So what element of the draft do I look forward to the most? Oh, good question. I think the draft itself is such a good event. I know. I mean, it's a shame that we obviously have to do it remotely because of the nature of what it is. But I think as the sort of core activity for the the actual draft league is so much fun. And again, being a bit of a football geek, to be able to spend the week before like a football chairman or general manager sort of scouting players and trying to work out who other people are going to pick and who's going to go first and second, third, whatever. I think that really is good fun. And yeah, as a bit of a football geek, it's exactly the sort of thing that gets me interested. So that particularly is brilliant. But then I think the resounding success of the group and the draft is the event. So obviously we did the Christmas one remotely last year, and so my first sort of in-person event, which was a little bit filtered by all things COVID, and obviously not everyone was in attendance, which was a shame. But the fact that I've managed to get this group of people and plus ones and partners to catch up for a couple of nights or a weekend, and generally everyone gets on so well, and it's it's not all about the draft. It's more about having a good laugh and some food and drinks and everything. It's such a success, and I'm sure you perhaps found the same. It's difficult to explain to other people outside the group that I'm going away this weekend. Who are you going away with? The guys that I play fantasy football with. It's it sounds a bit daft, but clearly it's become much more than that.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anybody else that does it to the level we do. But I imagine in America, those that do the NFL draft, I bet it's almost sort of really commonplace to do it to like the level that we do. Meeting up for socials and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's done more than we think.
Yeah, I think certainly in the US, the baseball, the fantasy baseball and American football is definitely taken very seriously. So maybe we've taken a leaf out of their book a little bit, like you say.
Yeah, no bad thing, I don't think. Right. The next one, I don't know if this... yeah. You might need a minute to think of some, I don't know, but we'll see.
Okay.
So this is it's not really a question, it's more of a request for 3 unpopular opinions. Now, do you want me to give you the 3 topics they've asked for at once, or do you want me to go one by one?
Oh, okay. Go all 3 at the start, and then another part of my mind will try and work out the second 2.
Okay. So the first one is for the draft itself. The second one is for West Ham. And the third one is just football.
Okay. Unpopular opinions. For the draft itself.
That can be anything, across the season, not just the draft, doing the drafting on the day that you pick all the players. It could be anything across
for the full experience.
Yeah.
Good question. So within the fantasy football sphere, I guess I touched on earlier picking players that are good players that don't sort of see any value. So I think within the fantasy football sort of universe, they do need to come up with some sort of way to reward, say, good defensive players for things other than clean sheets. For example, defensive midfielders that complete the most passes in the game or do the most tackling, kind of thing. Because I think that would actually make it more difficult to choose certain people, because they're stats that you perhaps don't see a lot of.
Yeah.
Whereas within our sort of draft environment, I think the only thing, and I guess this links back to before where I sort of described how I was too boring to do lots of trades. I think if there was an extra element to trades, so as I mentioned before, because everyone's going for the same goal, everyone wants more points, then if you perhaps added a few kickers into trades, similar to what they do in like the NBA, they trade a couple of players and also a couple of draft picks or something else. And I've not quite worked out how you do it, but I wonder whether we can add some kickers. So you can give me 2 players, I'll give you 2 players back, but in order to sweeten the deal for you, I also have to give you my first pick next year or something along those lines, just to make the trading more probably more frequent and a little bit, I guess, less one-dimensional.
Yeah, I can see that. I think we'd have to. My view on that would be to make sure it doesn't go like into people saying, "Oh, I'll buy you, this season's shirt or whatever." As soon as money starts getting added into it, there's just
agreed.
no.
We'd have to put in a salary cap of some sort.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 good ones there for that one. Actually.
And then so that was the draft. Yeah, sorry, I've taken more time answering that than any of the others. I think. With West Ham, unpopular opinion. I think this is one that surprises a lot of people that don't watch West Ham, and that is, I would say, Pablo Fornals is maybe West Ham's. He's in the top 3 most important players to our team, which he doesn't really do anything that exciting. He's only started scoring goals and really looking like he's going to score goals this year. But he's unbelievably fit and fast and hard-working, and his football brain, which to someone like myself who's not particularly physically gifted, he just reads the game so well and is so important to the way that West Ham play, and were able to finish in the top 6 or 7 last year. But I think to most people that don't watch West Ham all the time, he's just a bit of a boring left midfielder. But he's if you watch him enough, then you start to realise quite how important he is. So I guess that would be my unpopular opinion about West Ham. And then for football in general, I don't know if I fully believe what I'm about to say, but I think certainly in recent years, I reckon I've got, in fact, absolutely, I've got more enjoyment out of watching teams outside of the Premier League live in person at the ground than watching a Premier League game. Now, that doesn't go for going to watch West Ham, who obviously I've got a more emotional attachment to, but I would far rather go and watch Oldham against Rochdale, as I am in a couple of weeks, rather than watch Chelsea Arsenal at Stamford Bridge. I just think there's just more passion and knowledge in the seats and the crowd, and there's something very nostalgic about the sort of sights and smells and sounds that you get at lower league grounds rather than at top grounds. So I would urge anyone, any of your thousands of listeners, to go and watch their local non-league team or League One or League Two team, because it's just a different experience, and it feels more traditional, I think, even for us younger football fans.
Yeah, that's quite a good one, I'd say.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, do you reckon you can guess who asked you to do this?
The unpopular opinions. It's a good question, actually. Maybe Jack?
No.
I don't know then, you'll have to tell me.
It was Adam again.
Oh, he's come up with some very good questions.
He has, I'll give him that. He has done that. And the final question, did the draft live up to the hype?
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly lived up to the hype and well superseded it. As I mentioned earlier, I was aware of the heavy WhatsApp traffic, but didn't know too much else about the general content and all the extras and the podcast and the merch and the meetings and the AGMs, as well as obviously everyone being like-minded and everyone getting on well. It's it's been a fantastic addition to what is my life. Yeah, so it's been brilliant.
That's what we like to hear. And yeah, I mean, the podcast didn't even exist before you started.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely use that snippet for the advert, I reckon, for this episode. That I felt myself welling up with that.
I'll see what we can do. I've been looking at trying out some YouTube shorts, so maybe we can get something like that and put it in there. No, yeah. Thanks for coming back and doing that. Sorry, it might have felt a bit like an interrogation at maybe, I don't know, but really good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too. I think that was good. I think you've got a future in journalism as well as digital media.
Well, late night host show.
Maybe a late night chat show. Yeah, in the Stratford upon Avon area. I'm not sure if there's a big audience for it, but if there is, we'll find one.
Yeah, well, especially if people are like, oh, you should do it with people around Stratford. I'm not sure how well that would go down. People from Stratford.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're hitting about 40 minutes now, so it's probably a good time to call it a day there. But yeah, thanks for coming on again, George. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thank you very much, and here's to another successful year of the draft and the DraftCast.
Yeah, definitely. Next time you're on, I'll let you do a segment, and it can be as statty or non-statty as you like.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
No problem. So if you have been listening, thank you very much, and please do like the video and subscribe if you haven't. And as always, this is the DraftCast, and remember, draft is life. See you next time.